I'm Christian from the Leipzig University of Applied Sciences. Felix will introduce himself later in this lecture. First of all, we haven't really read the small print, so this whole thing was completely in German until last afternoon, and then we realized we have to do this in English, so it may get a little bumpy because we hadn't a chance to rehearse it again. And yeah. Okay, so we were asked to talk a little bit about our approach to immersive teaching at the HTWK. And before we come to the technical stuff where you're all keen for, we decided to go a little bit in the history and talk a little bit how we came to multi-channel and immersive. And so in fact, it really started all in 2001. Oh no, see, there was the first bump. Yeah, before I come to the history, I wanted to talk about how we see our students or how our students come to us, because the HTWK isn't the #1 audio immersive university in Germany, because if you are interested in a study with us and you look to the website, this is what you get. So you get a lot of people looking on monitors, a lot of people looking on TV stuff, and this first thing is audio and video all in all. So actually students don't come to us if they want to do audio. They come to us and then they're surprised that we're doing audio. So that's the first thing, because we have to get them on a different level compared to other universities. And when they come to us, then there's the next thing, because when we meet them, I'm from the 2000 years and now we are in 2025, so the things evolved a little bit. If I see our students, they are already on a very high level. They all have this YouTube degree, so they know practically everything about audio, producing audio, spatial audio, whatever. And actually, they're doing all this stuff with their smartphones or, in the best thing, on a small laptop. So if they introduce them to my studio and I want to impress them, they are like, do we need this? And yeah, so this is the one that kicks me then and said, well, I have to teach them that we're going to need this. And the main thing is how our students listen to audio, because if you look at what importance of audio they have, we realize a lot of things almost of the time that audio is always there. It's like a background noise. So you're listening to audio all the time. If you're in the shower, if you're cycling, if you're reading, if you're teaching, whatever, audio is all around on your headphones. So actually it's nothing special. So what's the thing about talking about audio if it's always there instantly? You don't have to go to a shop to buy a record or anything. You just have to switch it on and then it's there. So to get them on the emotional side, to get an emotional relationship to music, what I did in my use, I have to queue up in a line to get a record, and I have to find a friend who has this record, because I am a GDR child, so we didn't have anything, and to find something, and I have to record it to my little cassette player. And then I had an emotional relationship to this music. And this generation now doesn't have this. So music is always there instantly. It not even costs something really, because you have a flat rate. And to get on this level and then to get them and say, well, let's do something special in music, that's a really, it's a task actually. Okay, so, and how do we get this task? Let's switch over to the next thing and see what happens. Yeah, so what we decided is to focus on a couple of things if we're teaching immersive audio or audio in general. The first thing is we have to go on the meta level and to get our students to really listen to audio, or listen different, or to not, at least not to do anything else while listening to audio. That's the main thing. And we try to do this in kind of behaving like this. So when we are listening, we as the lecturers, we try to show them how we understand listening and how we want them to do this. So we cannot teach anything that we don't do by ourselves. So that's another thing. And we try to get them into networks like this saying SIM thing on the VDT and other things, so they get connected to other students to get a little bit of this spirit. And what we can do best until last year is to focus on technology. So we tried to get as much tools and interesting stuff to do audio and especially immersive audio as there is on the market. So actually we bought almost everything, and we tried to get almost everything to have a little pool of stuff that is not on a smartphone, to get this little impression on the technology side. And we can't really ignore the content side, but we're not an art school, so content is necessary. We need an idea, we need content, but we can't focus on the importance of content or how it works, because we're a little bit focusing on the technology side until last year, and then we had to change a little bit. But this is what Felix will talk about. Okay, so now we come to the history, because this is how it all started. I did my bachelor thesis in 2001 about surround sound. This was the big thing in 2001, because everybody thought, well, this is what changed the whole industry. We can do multi-channel, we have SACD, we have DVD and DVD audio, and everything will be better now. I was one of those enthusiastic people who said, well, this is the big thing, we have to talk about this, and it didn't happen. But I didn't want to accept it, so I just switched side in 2001 from student to working at a university, and then I tried to establish this a little bit, and this is practically how it all started. Ironically, a couple of guys thought that my diploma thesis was not that bad, so they made a book out of it, and this is what you see there. It was translated in English. It's completely outdated now, so please don't try to get it, because I'm not that proud anymore, but I'm proud that it's there. And yeah, I started to try a little lecture with the students, so it was called Surround. We talked about 5.1, quad, about main microphones, stuff like that. We tried to make DVDs, which was really fun, because these are, I looked in my archive and I found a couple of DVDs I made in the early 2000s with my students. So we just tried to capture anything, and we tried to build them, and we tried to do microphone comparisons and stuff like that, which was really funny, because you could do media. You had something in your hand where you can print a cover and give it to your grandparents for Christmas and stuff like that. It's not that easy anymore like now. So this is another thing we have lost in the time. So we did a couple of first present project. This was all Surround, but Surround still today is for me the technology base of all immersive stuff, because if you're not able to create something interesting in Surround, you can't get really need of the immersion you can now get in 3D. So it's still something that my students or our students have to learn and have to think about. Okay, so the other thing is what we did on the technical side. So we tried to establish the first couple of surround and multi-channel studios. So this is our own studio. And if you look carefully, I talked about the emotional side, which is really important for us. So one of the first things in our immersive studio was the lava lamp, which has to be in every music studio. Otherwise, it's not an official music studio. So if you don't have a lava lamp, get one. Okay, so then we had the chance to build another studio in the media campus of the Sparkasse in, I guess 2006 or 7, we did a lot of crazy things like self-building with plastic pipes, microphone structures we can build on cameras, and then we had a project where we had 3 or 4 of those on cameras, which we tried to switch when we switched the angle, and then we tried to establish a little script on the DVDs. So if you switch the camera angle, then it switches the whole surround sound, and it wasn't really good, but it was fun to do. So this was one thing. Yeah, so this is how it all started, and then we had the chance to build a complete new facility in 2009. So this is like our studio looks now. One of our studios, it misses the lava lamp because I can't get any bulbs anymore for it because there are now not anymore on sale. I'm really sad about this. Yeah, so actually, the interesting thing is we've built this in 2009. And we were one of the first facilities who was able to do really 3D or immersive audio, but it was all by a mistake. Because when we've built this, I was looking, I was intensely included in the whole planning and construction process, which was a pain in the ass because talking to building people is not anything you want to do if you're in audio, because they're on a completely different planet. Far, far away. And yeah, so we tried to get our things in it. And one thing is, I've seen a picture of a studio, I think it was Atlantis in Sweden, where they had the 5.1 system under the ceiling. And I said, well, that's a good idea because then I have more space for my students. So we built this. And then I first heard it and I said, well, it doesn't work, because it's up there and it's not on my ear level. So we have to take all them down, but I had now the structures up there in the ceiling. I had the cabling and I could put speakers up there, and I couldn't really accept that they're hanging there because it was looking silly to have cables on the ceiling with nothing on it. So we just bought another set of 5 speakers, put them up there, and I had basically 5 and 5, so a 10.1 system in 2010, which was 2010, which was probably one of the first studios in Germany who really had this, but it wasn't intended to be like this. But we could do discrete mixing, so we just soldered them to our patch bay, and then we just put discrete signals up there, and well, there it was. And yeah, so we came into this whole immersive thing, which was interesting because around this time, 2010, 2012, the first ideas about Oro and stuff like came up, and now by chance there was a kind of technology which could take use of this, what we already had. So these are just a couple of pictures, what it looks now. Meanwhile, we have another studio, which you can see up here, which has basically a 70.2 speaker setup, which is basically something like 22.2 without the wide speakers and without the lower level. So you can use this by almost any DAW that has a 22.2 setup, or you can use it by Ambisonics or whatever. It's like kind of a dome setup. And yeah, then we have a listening room, which has a 7.1.4 plus a top speaker. And yeah, that's basically it. So these are the 3 facilities, the 3 studios we have now at the university where we can do immersive, which are all the time set up. And because we had this, we started to research a little bit, or to look a little bit for kind of complete production workflow for immersive. And this was about 2017, where a student started to look for a possibility for his bachelor thesis to compare production workflows. So the basic idea was, do we hear a difference between 3 completely different workflows if we record a band with a main microphone setup, or we record every single player of the band in overdub with the same setup and just layer it, or do we make a sweep of the room and do just a convolution reverb and take just the spot mics? And so he did all the three workflows with a band, and then he tried to compare them. Interesting is you hear a difference between the convolution reverb, but you don't really have heard a difference between the layered multi-channel main microphone and the all-around live version. But the interesting thing was we tried to find something where we can record and monitor, because we weren't those pros into immersive, so we needed a chance to listen on the place where we recorded if it's working already. And then we came up with it was really interesting back then. It's not that interesting now anymore, but well, it's where it started. We came up with a setup where we used one of those Klangfabrik things, which was originally an immersive processor for musicians for in-ear monitoring, and we just put in there a 9.1 setup and Dante infrastructure, and it worked really well. And then we took a lot of projects with the thing, but we were in need of a microphone we wanted to use, and this is basically I don't know if you know this guy Morten Lindberg. He does a lot of recordings with a setup like this. It's basically an Omnicube or a little. It's basing on an Omnicube. The only difference is that you take 1-inch Omni microphones on the lower level, which are a little bit more directive compared to the half-inch Omnis on the upper level. And it worked quite good, but we didn't have this whole microphone setup. So we talked to our friends at Mikrotech Gefell if they have something, and they just said, well, why don't you take our measurement microphones? And we said, well, measurement, we are studio guys, we are not interested in measurement. But in fact, it worked really well, because measurement microphones basically are just good recording microphones, so there's not this huge difference. And the other thing is, if you do a measurement microphone, you have to do them quite good, otherwise they wouldn't work. So if you're in studio technologies, you probably all know those matched pair things where you get two microphones that are not that far away from each other. If you take measurement microphones, they're basically all the same, but the channel to really get this thing classified as class whatever microphone defines that you practically have a set of put in every number matched microphones, because they all sound actually really the same. And then you have stuff like calibrators that really fit on the microphone, so you can calibrate every single until, I don't know, the fourth Nachkommastelle. So you get a really clean workflow, and it worked quite good. So we were impressed and they were impressed, and all this led to this thing called M-Cube, because all they did is, after they heard like it has worked, they decided to make a product out of it. So basically, so we are responsible for this thing. I don't know if they have sold a lot of them. I doubt it, because it's quite expensive, but it's quite good too, we have to admit. Yeah, so we did a couple of more projects, and this is where I hand it over to you, because this is around the time when Felix has to use it, because back then he was a student, and I just gave the stuff to him and said, well, do something.
Yeah, and I did something, and really I did it because I just had fun to record stuff, not really because I was back then that interested in 3D audio. This happened accidentally by doing this stuff, and what we did was that we recorded different stuff in different situations, in different rooms, and just tried out the workflow the student invented in 2019 and did it with the Lakaien, it was. Deine Lakaien, in a church with a jazz duo in a very, I don't know how you would call it. It was an industry hall, I would say. We did stuff with a choir, with a vocal ensemble, with organ and stuff. So we really tried to put this microphone in every imaginable music situation, classical music situation you can think of, and we figured, okay, this works quite well, the workflow works, the microphone sounds great in most of the use cases, but not in all of them. So there were use cases like I did a recording with a vocal ensemble in a very small room, and this, for example, didn't really work because of the dimensions of the microphone area. The people just stood a little bit too near to it. And another problem of this thing is that you don't really get height informations, but Diffusschall from above. So you don't really get this vertical information. It's also something Jungkook Lee, if you know him, wrote a really cool paper about. So I got more in the direction of, okay, how could one get use of this vertical dimension, and wrote my bachelor thesis about this. This was that's where this picture is from. I'm a guy interested in audio plays and audio dramas, and I really like this thought about recordings with dummy head, because they are so alive, and it really works quite well. And in the 70s, the people were hyped with this stuff, and it was this great thing. But it has the limitation that you can't get it to loudspeakers. So I thought, okay, how could one do this? And since we worked with the M-Cube, I thought about, okay, which kind of array would work for this situation, and wrote my thesis about this. In the end, it was this wonderful ESMA array, and it was okayish, I would say. It worked, but the ESMA has this little twist that you have to put the speakers at the exact right point with the 90 degrees angles, and so it's okay. It works, but yeah, it's okay. But there are other bachelor theses in the spatial audio context that people write at our university, and they look at upmixing for things like a planetarium in Halle. They did. We do still microphone comparisons, workflow comparisons, stuff like this, like binauralization comparisons, and there are many things that the people can look at our university in this context. Right now, we're looking at doing something with podcast. Maybe that's the next big thing. And what we also did was a research project with where we looked at how we can create HRTFs. And this was back then a really interesting topic. Right now we had Karl-Heinz Brandenburg at our university, and he said, no, HRTFs, they're not necessary anymore. You just have to go 6 degrees of freedom and then everything is fine. But back then, HRTFs were the great thing. And we looked at how can we record these and build our own workflow and stumble and fall, because I'm not just that great guy with programming stuff, and the API for SOFA files is a little bit, it's not my kind of stuff. But in the end, it worked, and we created a SOFA file, but the project didn't get into the second round, but still another student tried one thing to create an HRTF with less measurement points. So we did this measurement at Klingenthal with KME, with many loudspeakers, and the other student tried to do this with less measurement points. But as I said, sadly it didn't go on the project. But other things did go on, like the study of media technology, which Christian lectures since, I don't know, long time, long time. And this study is more focused on the technological side of things. So it's very technical based, and the people are learning about formats and codecs and guidelines about immersive audio, and it's more this kind of stuff. And they also learn about, okay, how do microphone arrays work, what's the thought behind it, but it's more based on this side of things. They learn many production workflows, so they have this really great view on the things. So they have a little bit of a greater horizon of what's possible. So we have, you've seen our more analog-based studio. We have this great, very complex digital studio, and they have to work with really complex workflows, so that if they go out in the world and are confronted with any kind of thing, so that they can work with this kind of stuff. And it's a really great contrast to their home studio and their smartphone stuff. So that's really the thought Christian had behind this. But that's history. And now we have a new study, that's media production. This is kind of, it's still very, very beta. It's gamma, I don't know, it's way before beta, because it hasn't even started yet. We have this new study, media production, what's more content-based. So there was even the thought of calling it content production, because the students learn more about how do we produce stuff, how do we think about media and use technology for it, and not think too much about the technology. So this is also the point that I will have in this class, since we've got this class about immersive audio. So they've got the foundation in the first semester with me, and in the third semester, so next winter, they will learn about immersive audio, but more from the creation side of things. So they will learn the basics about technology, like what possibilities there are, like how do we hear, and the basic production workflows they are. And on the other side, they will also learn about, okay, how do I write for 3D audio? Because I don't know if anyone here heard in some audio dramas this flying around your head. It's, and I really, really hate it. I hate this fly. I think if I ever heard some new audio drama with a fly flying around my head, because it's 3D audio, I'm going crazy, because that's not why we use 3D audio. So it's not a gimmick. So it should be something you tell a story with. So it's like, if someone writes for audio, it's also something else than if they write for, I don't know, a book. So you have to think in a different way, and that's also something I want to teach the students in this class, that you have to think of in the 3D audio a little bit differently and have a different approach. In the end, they also learn about other stuff that's possible in 3D audio, so like what to do in movies or what to do in game audio and what's next generation audio. But since I'm an audio drama guy, they will produce an audio drama. That's what they will have to do, if they want or not.
Yeah, okay, so the next switch back to technology, which we evolved since then. What you've seen so far is kind of easy immersive workflow. So if you take any DAW, you get a little idea of making maybe surround or 7.1.4, whatever. But what comes next if you don't want to do Dolby ADM or something like this? And for this, we tried to establish a couple of other things. So we got a lot of different immersive render engines to do comparisons and to do setups beyond the commercial immersive side. Actually, what you've seen here, and this is interesting, I don't know if you know this binaural rendering system by Brandenburg Labs. We had the first working system worldwide. The NHK in Japan got the first system, but they didn't unpack it. So we were the first ones who did unpack theirs and had it running, and this is impressive. Yeah, we have one of those things. We have a lot of different render engines. This is what comes. This is the immersive playground we provide the students. So this is a kind of a dome structure, 30.2 speakers. This is another dome which which doesn't have speakers by now. It was a project with other part of the university about environmental wood-based building structures, and the idea behind this dome is to find structures which can be more flexible in any kind of immersive structure. And the first thing we did is another dome, much more heavy than this one. And this is our immersive cube. We started beginning this year. So basically these are trade fair elements just built up as a room, and then you have 4 projectors. And what we use here is these PoE powered speakers where you can place basically almost everywhere. We have to figure out how to get them behind the screen because the screen is not perforated right now. But this is another thing we work with. We do a project with the Kristallpalast Spiegelzelt. This is just a promo picture of them, but they have an immersive dinner show since 2023, where in this ring and in this upper ring are 12 speakers around, and they wanted to have immersive effects because the show then was themed about Star Trek and Star Wars, and they want to have flying around effects, and they ask us if we can provide them. And since then, this dinner show is quite an immersive dinner show, what nobody notices because everyone is eating and not focusing on the immersive things we created there. Okay, yeah, just a word. We did another microphone setup with Microtech Gefell. We wanted to have a setup on the other side, so we have the big cube, and then we wanted to have a smaller cube. So actually, they have built special microphones for us, which have a little push on the heights. And basically, this led to what they now sell as the Generation 4 microphone system. So we are responsible for another commercial microphone product by Microtech Gefell. So this seems to be a good relationship between the university and them. Yeah, so there are lots of possibilities, and final words from you.
Yeah, there were 1 minute. Okay. I speed up. Okay, I think then we will skip the audio play. You want to hear the demo? Yeah, okay, you want to hear the demo, I think. Okay, then just few words. We have many cooperation partners since we like to do things in a practical way. And we did some projects with Buchfunk, where I also work half-time. We did a project with the Wind Philharmonic Orchestra in Bad Lausick last year with Lasse Nipko zusammen, with some mind-blowing miking technique where he only puts spot mics on fucking everything. And we also did a cooperation last year with the MDR because they don't really do spatial audio yet and weren't able to do it. So they asked us how to do this. And we just did one project and find that it worked. And just until they want to release it, because it's the MDR and they don't have any infrastructure to release something like this. So they will publish just an MP4 to download from the web page until maybe in 10 or 20 years the app is ready to play some spatial audio. And now we can play some spatial audio from Alice and was sie im Wundern fand, eine Kooperation, wo Studis where the students did some sound design and mixing, and I did the Feenstaub. Okay.
Mohammed, ziele dumm, sie schlagen Türen zu. Sie, sein Hurensohn.
Ich doch nicht!
Kopf ab, die Schmerzkönigin befiehlt.
Oh, bitte nicht! Sie weinen und weinen und weinen. Zumindest sind sie nun nicht mehr gleich. Kopflos.
Und wer bist du?
Ich.
Warum werde ich kleiner?
Noch erscheint dir schleierhaft, was hier passiert. Bist du noch die gleiche, wenn du größer oder kleiner wirst?
Wieso seid ihr alle so groß?
Oh, zu spät. Oh, zu spät.
So spät? Für was denn?
Zu spät zum Wundern, zu früh zum Fragen. Gebt lieber auf die Tränen Acht.
Wenn ihr so weiter weint, schwimme ich weg.
Tränen füllen den Gang, werden zu Bächen, zu einem Meer. Lähmend, fließend, klingend trägt der Strom sie ungestüm mit sich.
Nix. Yeah, this is a little bit longer. It's 70 minutes. I think that's a little bit too long for this kind of presentation. But I think we can come to our okay, there's just one more thing. So and we have this really great event. It's called SALS. It's originally from Hamburg, from Luca and Leon from the VDT local group there. And the selling point is that, like we did just now, is that we listen to spatial audio about different topics like quadraphonic stuff, a spatial journey from the 50s to until today, Dolby Atmos, ambisonics, stuff like this. I want to do something about audio drama, maybe we see. And the next SALS is on the 11th July at 4 p.m. at the HTWK. So come, we want to see you there. And now we come to our last part.
Yeah, to sum it up, we developed our own way to teach immersive or to teach immersion, mainly by live immersion. So we do stuff we like, we try to get everything technology based, what is able and what makes sense for us to provide this to the students to do kind of projects. They don't have to make sense all the time, they don't have to be high level all the time, they just have to be. and to give them something to create, to play around, to do whatever they like. And if you are interested in doing anything with us together, just give us a call and then we'll see if we can find a way. So this is basically our approach, this is where we stand, and this is what we do all the time, mainly. Thanks.